To what do you attribute your chemistry with Dave Letterman?
I think just that I truly think that he is funny, and I think that I can make him laugh occasionally too. I think that's the bottom line with him.
How important is it for you to continue working on this show?
Well, I don't know what else I would do. On the other hand, I think that when we are finally done, I'll be able to just lie down. I never thought that so much show business would be, that I would get to do so much of it for so long and at such an intense rate. So perhaps I will be able to just, take a rest after that. Learn how to sight read.
Finally, is that a goal?
It is, yes. To
Really?
put in the time, yes. It would be amazingly, I don't know if I'll ever really do it, but to be able to just sit down and play any piece of music from the page would be great.
Now talk about the first shows when you guys came back after September 11th.
Very, Dave really didn't, it was all up to him when we might come back. Because we were off, the September 11th attack took place when we were off. We were on a week off anyway. We were on a week's hiatus anyway. It's just coincidence. Wasn't it a Monday?
Was it Monday? That sounds
I think it
right.
was earlier in the week anyway. So we were off, and then we would have come back on the following Monday, but we didn't. We stayed off the air. And it wasn't clear to me when we were going to come back, and the decision was being made on a day-to-day basis. And then Dave mentioned, I think he mentioned it on the air, that he saw Rudolph Giuliani, the mayor of New York, saying on TV, it's important for New Yorkers to go back to doing what they have always done, living life regularly. It's important for the city, for the economy of the city. Live your life, go to a restaurant, come in, go out for dinner, go to a show, get New York moving again. And I think Dave was inspired by that to come back on the air. And I think also that the other talk show hosts were looking to him to see when he was going to make the decision, as I believe they were when the writers were on strike. But that's another story. He decided to come back and didn't know, had a couple of guests, Regis Philbin, who was always his go-to guy, his most dependable guest, I think, who he can always count on. And Regis has been with him when he returned from his heart operation and things like that as well. David, I think, knew what he was, the kind of things he was going to say at the beginning, but nobody else did, and he didn't write anything down. And he just spoke, didn't he? And he spoke for quite a long time, and really did speak from his heart, and it was just obvious that this was not a prepared speech. This was just a man trying to pull it out from his soul. I really think he did that. It was a hell of a night.
Now, shortly thereafter, you were the music supervisor for the concert for New York.
That's right.
Talk about that event.
A hell of an event. John Sykes is the name of a guy who has been a friend of mine, and I've done a number of shows with him, and he was an executive at VH1 at the time. And it was in that position that he called me for this show to back up a number of the acts. Paul McCartney was the headliner, and it may have been his idea. Paul's father had been a firefighter, and there was the connection. It was in the middle of the anthrax scare in New York City, and excuse not New York City, all country. Um, so it was definitely not all clear. High terror alert. The feeling of, boy, if somebody, a terrorist had access to the air conditioning system, imagine what could happen in here. But nobody thought for a second about not doing this show. And performers came in from all over the country and outside the country. British performers like The Who and McCartney, and Mick and Keith, to say we love New York and we are here to support New York. It was very, very moving. Very moving. And of course it was, I had appeared on the other one too, the first one, which took place in the Sony studio
Right.
with no audience and no applause, and was a telethon type of setup for an evening. And I played with Faith Hill that night. And that was, again, right middle of the war zone. It was like broadcasting from the middle of the war zone. But this concert for New York was, at least enough time had gone by that people were ready to release some of their emotions and have a little catharsis, and so it was like a party for the cops and the firefighters, to whom we were so grateful. Everything about it was just the greatest. I'll never forget it.
Now, just in case you had forgotten, you have a book coming out later this year.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of
Now,
that.
what's it called again?
It's called We'll Be Here for the Rest of Our Lives.
And
Doubleday, October the 12th.
now, a little excerpt of that book I noticed was in one of the papers here in New York a couple of weeks ago. Little tidbit of information I did not know about your relationship to the television show Seinfeld. You want to tell us about that?
It's absolutely true. This was the days of earlier days of Letterman, when before I had any help with my correspondence and phones and things like that, before I had Daniel Fetter, who worked so tirelessly for me as my assistant, and now even he has an assistant. But at this time I had no assistants at all, and I just had mail piling up in my dressing room, up this high, and then I had an office too, and messages would come in, and this one came in, and I had done a little appearance in that movie, This Is Spinal Tap, rock and roll mockumentary that they had, which Rob Reiner directed, and a message came in, and it said Castle Rock Productions, and that was Rob Reiner's company, but I couldn't place it. I knew I should recognize that, but I couldn't place what it was, and it said Jerry Seinfeld, and he's doing a show, and he wants you to play his sidekick. And my recollection is I don't have to audition. Just call him back. There's a part. I guess it was just a pilot at that point. And I was so overstressed and no help in answering any calls or anything. And I just said, Jerry Seinfeld, he's great on our show, but what kind of a show could he ever have? Schmuck, right? Never even called him back. Can you imagine that? Then I wondered why he was a little bit cold when next time I saw him. Well, because I never even called him back. But, I didn't miss on it all that much. Just the #1 most beloved show in the prime time ever in history.
You and he ever subsequently talk about it?
I'm afraid to bring it up.
All right, a few questions summing up.
Okay.
What's your proudest professional achievement thus far?
Well, there have been, I've had so many kicks and thrills, and I've been so blessed and lucky, but that concert for New York that we were talking about, that's got to be right up there. and traveling with Dave overseas, which we also spoke about. That's up there too. Playing for James Brown, we've spoken about. Um, and hanging on to this job for this long run. You know, that certainly has changed the rest of my life as well. So those are, I'm pretty proud of those achievements.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Flip side, biggest professional regret, if any?
Oh, you know, everything works out fine. But at the time, having to pull out of the first Blues Brothers movie at the last minute, having put the band together, was, I don't know, you know, I didn't think I'd ever recover from that. That was a tough one. But I don't regret it because I was happy that I did the right thing and stuck with Gilda's project, even though it wasn't finished in time for me to go do the movie, and that's what caused the conflict.
Did that ever create issues with you and Belushi and Aykroyd, the fact that you didn't get to do the movie?
Sure. I had a big show business feud with, not with Aykroyd. Aykroyd understood, but Belushi and I had a big show business feud. But then we had a big show business reconciliation, and I rejoined the Blues Brothers for the tour that supported the movie, and so, you know, everything was okay.
How have you dealt with being a celebrity? I don't know that this was ever your goal when you decided you wanted to be a musician and pursue it, but now being a very visible public figure, you know, how has that been for you, and how do fans approach you?
I think that if I, to whatever degree it is that I've become known, it's just the right degree. I'm not like David Letterman, who, you know, has to be a little bit concerned with his privacy and such. I can go out and do whatever I want, and when people approach me, they're usually very nice to me, almost 100% of the time. And they say, you know, the women say, I was in bed with you last night, and what more could a person want than that? People are pretty nice to me, and that's what's, you know, what's most important.
You live kind of in several worlds. This world of music, where, as I said, when I don't think we had the cameras rolling, I sort of think of you as America's band leader, because you've played with everybody at these Rock and Roll Hall of Fame events, and obviously on the show. And then in comedy, of course, and in television. Talk about how all of this, music, television, comedy, how it's all changed since you came into it.
Well, I mean, you know, I could get particular and say that the music certainly has just evolved. The pop music has evolved, sadly to the point where there are fewer live musicians playing in concerts. Not only Britney Spears plays to a pre-recorded track, but everybody, even if they're playing live, everybody that comes on this show with a self-contained act has some aspect on, whether it's just a little percussion or maybe the background vocals, but everybody's playing along to sequenced and pre-recorded synthesized tracks and stuff. So that, the music has changed, but I'm not wistful or regretful about it. Things evolve. The music is different. Computers changed everything. Comedy, so much more, certainly more open on, you know, the airwaves. The type of shows that are on are so liberal, you know, way more than than it was like when I started. Reality television and what they're about. The reality of every show is that there's a stripper pole in everyone's living room, and this is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, but what shows are about are a lot different, and that's of course reality television. There was no such thing when I first started on Saturday Night Live, but Saturday Night Live is still around, amazingly so. What a run they've had. And Dave, I think, was responsible for taking the Saturday Night Live type of mentality and applying it to the convention of a talk show, combining those two things. And that's still being developed, and that part of television is the same.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, when you came into late night, I mean, there was the Johnny Carson Tonight Show and Late Night with David Letterman, and now
right,
the expansion of late night across all the different networks.
Yes.
Kind of just give us your 2 cents on that.
Not only the networks, but the cable as well. There's lots more. There's more of everything, more channels. What did Springsteen say? All those channels, nothing on. There's lots more competition, and I don't know, as far as what the business end of it is like, I have no idea. It's all an evolution, though. I don't think that you can go back. You got to keep, the entertainment keeps going forward.
2 last quick questions. What advice would you give to an aspiring musician coming into it now?
I have an answer for this because I'm asked that all the time. And I always say the same thing. Don't do it unless there's nothing else that you can do. I say that one of the reasons is because how I made the decision. I wasn't going to do it, but there was nothing else I could do. There I was in college, and I couldn't figure out, I couldn't do anything but go into music. I would have been too unhappy. And I think that if that's not the case, that you will leave it and do something else. Because it is tough, there's a lot of rejection, and if it's not the only thing you can do, you will not stick with it. So that's why I say, if there's anything else you can do, do it.
Last question. Sort of a legacy question. For posterity, how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, that's too serious a question. I don't know. Certainly as a guy who co-wrote the all-time greatest gay anthem, It's Raining Men. I'm very proud of that as my legacy. My kids are proud of me. My daughter's 16 and my son is 10, and they will always, when they hear that song, know that their old man wrote the music. So I'm very proud of that. And otherwise, I used to say, boy, if I were ever making show business, I would want to show that you don't have to be an asshole. Well, I don't think I was successful. I have certainly been an asshole. There have been certainly times when you find yourself behaving like an asshole, even though I may have said that in my younger days. But almost nothing, no way to avoid it, or at least there wasn't any way that I could avoid it. So I didn't avoid it, but at least I tried.
I will tell you, for the 3+ hours we've enjoyed with you here, you have not been an asshole.
Thank you.
And we're very grateful for your time and for your insights and recollections. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mission accomplished then.
Awesome.
Well, it's no secret that I wrote a book with a collaborator named David Ritz. And this book comes out in October of 2000 and something. What year are we in now?
2009.
Yeah, I guess it's October of this year. And it's a double date. It's called We'll Be Here for the Rest of Our Lives. And I was asked if I had to come up with a theme at the last second for this book, what would it be? And I think with your kind permission, that it might go something like this. We'll be here for the rest of our lives. We got nowhere else to go. We'll be here for the rest of our lives. So I I've been told. It's a crazy book about all the things your daddy wouldn't like you to know. We'll be here for the rest of our lives, so let's go on with the show. October 12th, Doubleday, a division of Random House.